Greetings, my name is Candace Chambers and I am the CEO of Educational Writing Services, LLC, and this is Ask Candace C. So today we have a question from Trisha, and she wants to know how to avoid taking out so many student loans for graduate school. So here's her question. Hi Candace, my name is Trisha, and I would like to attend graduate school for my master's in social work. I took out many student loans when I was an undergrad, and I want to avoid taking out so many loans when I attend graduate school. What advice do you have? So thank you, Trisha, for writing in. I do really appreciate it. So I just want to start the conversation just discussing debt in general and how in America, like, the country just kind of lives on debt, and debt is normal. And so many people have debt, student loan debt from school, and I can understand that Trisha does not want to get student loans when she goes to graduate school. So the advice I would give Trisha is coming from advice that from my technique that I used when I was about to go to graduate school for my master's, which was free, and my PhD, which is currently also paid for, is that you need to do your research. So even for graduate school, I had the idea that I was not going to pay for school. I did not want to pay for school. And that's what I advise other people to do. Just have in mind that you will not pay for school. Even if you don't pay the full cost, I want you to also have in mind that I want to pay as less as possible, okay? Because sometimes you can't get it all the way paid for, but you can save on some of the costs. Now here's a few tips on how to do that. First is to do your research. Look and see what schools are out there for what you would like to study. So sometimes it's easy to go to an online school because it's convenient. You can do it from your house. You might have children and things of that nature. You might be working a full-time job. Those schools are very convenient. That's why they're made in the way that they are, because they're very convenient. But I also want you to look at some of the schools in your local area. It might be a university or a college in your area that provides online classes that you can take advantage of, but they're not a strictly online school. And so you'll probably save much money by attending those schools because they're located in your state, the tuition is probably cheaper, and things of that nature. If you do have to do an online school, still do your research. Search around. One school is probably not going to just have that program. It'll probably be some other variation of that program at another school, but do your research and take time to do your research. So you might say, oh, I think I want to go to grad school. I think I want to get my master's or my doctorate or another advanced degree. Don't just enroll in school in 2 months, because you need time to do your research. And make a list, make a chart, but always include tuition and costs in the equation. And some schools say, oh, we'll give you $600 off. But is it $600 off of what? Like, that's very important to know the bottom number. So that's one piece of advice I would give, is to do your research. Also, look to see if they have funding at the actual school. So some schools have scholarships for their graduate students. That does exist. They're usually in the form of assistantships or fellowships. And so sometimes you might have to provide some type of service to the school, but they pay for your tuition. So you just have to kind of play around with the language that you use when you're searching for funds. You can ask professors that are at the school. You can ask people in the graduate school that if they have funds through the graduate school. I know for me, for my master's, I use an assistantship to pay for school, and then for my PhD, I use a fellowship to pay for school for 5 years. So it is possible. But also, lastly, if you know you want to go to graduate school, honestly, start saving your money. You want to avoid as many student loans as possible. So you might have to save, you might have to cut back, you might have to budget school within your budget instead of just blindlessly taking out student loans. But I wanted to discuss an article with this Ask Candace C, and it's from the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education. Now, Trisha didn't say if she was white or black or Latinx or anything like that, but I wanted to discuss some of the numbers that have been recorded from the National Science Foundation concerning, it's a survey of earned doctorates. So it's actually concerning doctoral degrees in the United States. So I wanted to read 2 different statistics. So the first one is that the average graduate education debt for whites was $31,657 in 2019. But for African Americans who earned doctorates in 2019, they had an average graduate student debt of $84,000. So we're talking a difference of about $50,000 between whites and blacks with graduate school debt. All right. Also, another statistic that I wanted to bring up was that a total of 490 of the 2,369 African Americans who earned doctorates in 2019, or 20.7%, that's what that number is, they had a student loan debt amount of $160,000. For whites, who were only 4.4% of all doctoral recipients. So as you can see, that's a different percentage, but they had a graduate student debt exceeding $160,000. So only 4.4% of them had a student loan debt exceeding $160,000, and for African Americans it was 20.7%. So as you can see, African Americans are graduating with more student loan debt than white Americans, but at the same time, what we have to realize is that a lot of different factors do play into that equation as far as economics and things of that nature. But what I will say is, even though we have these statistics, for anybody, any color, any race, of any economic background, do your research. Save your money, do your research, determine if you really need the degree. If you need the degree and it's going to have some type of economic return, then figure out how you're going to invest in your education. Do you need to get an assistantship, work on the campus, receive a stipend to go to school, things of that nature. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to school, go to class, do my service to the department, and they paid me a living stipend and my tuition and health insurance. And for my PhD, I'm doing the same thing. So everybody's situation is different, but I would say to do your research and determine what school will be best for you for graduate school. So that's my advice, Patricia. I hope this was informative for you. I like to look at the stats, but I also like to listen to people and know what people are going through with student loans, and it's horrible. And we're going to work together to try to figure this thing out. So if you have any questions for me about writing, scholarships, or college admissions, give me an email. You can send an email to edwritingservices.org. We have a contact form, and you can just put Ask Candace C, and we will be able to put your question on the show. All right, so have a great day.